If it has bones like a chicken and a comb like a chicken, it's chickweed. Our green urban spaces are full of nutritious weeds to eat. I'm Anna the Urban Nana, and I'm going to show you how we can pick our dinner out in the wild. This plant is one you might recognise from school ovals, and as a kid we used to eat it and we called it sour grass. Some people call it soursop or wood sorrel. It's an oxalis species, and all oxalis are edible. You can tell that they're not clover because each leaf has 3 segments and each segment is heart-shaped. The flavour of these is kind of like a lettuce with a lemon vinaigrette all over it. Some people will tell you that it's got so much oxalic acid it's going to give you kidney stones, but don't worry, you'd have to eat your body weight in them every day for 2 weeks for that to be an issue. Lots of you will probably know exactly what this one is. It's an invasive species around the southeast areas of Australia and Victoria in particular, known as wild onion grass, three-cornered leek, wild garlic, lots of different things. But the important thing about this is you need to make sure that it smells like onions. Everything in the allium family is edible, and you can use all parts of this plant. The flowers make great garnishes, you can flavour vinegar with them. The seed pods you can pickle as if they were pickled onions. The leaves are an excellent substitute for spring onions, and you can tell who they are by their 3 corners. The rest of the plant is edible too. If you get in and dig some out, you can see how they resemble spring onions. They can be used in salads, in stir fries, put through sandwiches, even pickled if you've got the time to clean them properly. This is an almond tree. They're relations of peaches and nectarines, and they're the first flowering fruit trees of every spring. So even though this is in a wild space, I can see there's a beehive in this person's garden. So I'm kind of assuming that they may have planted this, and I wouldn't go and take everything from this tree. Here's some young fruit that's just starting to grow. And in springtime, you may find these in Greek or Italian greengrocers, and you can actually eat the whole thing, and it's filled with an almond flavoured jelly. A lot of green edibles can be found in wild council spaces and in your gardens, but obviously make sure that you're not picking from areas that are sprayed or have contamination flowing into them, so next to waterways or factories. And always make sure that you're only taking enough for what you need right now. Don't be greedy. This here is called chickweed, Stellaria media. It's got tiny star-shaped flowers with 5 deeply lobed white petals. It's got long tendrils that kind of creep along the ground. The key identifying features for chickweed are that along one side of the stem, it's got a tiny mohawk. And if you break the stem gently, you can see that it has a strong mid-vein. So the saying goes, if it has bones like a chicken and a comb like a chicken, it's chickweed. Chickweed tastes a lot like a beautiful soft lettuce. I like to chop it up and add it in sandwiches. I'll put it into green smoothies and bulk out pestos when I'm making them with wild ingredients. This is a locust tree, which grows all around Australia, and you'll often find it overhanging someone's back fence because they planted it without realising how big it's going to get. They're characterised by long, strappy, dark green leaves with a bit of a fuzzy underside. And the fruits start off as green little bullets, and then they will ripen to a dark orange yellow. Flavour-wise, these fruits, when they're ripe, taste a lot like cantaloupe that's been doused in honey and vanilla. This whole area here is actually wild English violets, but if you walked past it and didn't know what they were, you wouldn't know to look. But if I look underneath the leaves, I can find some beautiful purple scented flowers that I can make flavoured sugars, decorate cakes with, and even make a colour-changing syrup out of. This area is nice and damp, so it's a perfect spot for dandelions and other leafy greens to grow. Here we've got dandelion that have a beautiful big yellow flower, looks a bit like a lion's mane. Stems of dandelions are hollow, and they give out a white milky sap when you break them. The name dandelion actually comes from the French word for tooth of the lion, dent de lion. And you can see that the leaves have sharp pointed teeth like a lion. Now that's a useful ID point because they have a cousin who likes to grow in the same area, but whose leaves aren't quite as sharp and toothy. And these guys, being the more docile version, are cat's ears. Every part of this plant is edible, so I'm going to gather some leaves to add to my salad. With most edible weeds, you'll find that the younger leaves are more tender and sweeter. So when you're picking, look out for the bright young green ones. So today we've picked dandelion, both the leaves and the flowers. We've got beautiful chickweed, lovely tender green. We've got oxalis or soursop. We've got onion grass, which is a perfect substitute for spring onions. And then there's the beautiful, delicate, wild English violets, which I'm going to use to make a colour-changing cocktail syrup. So we've done for our foraging today. I've got a nice basket full of greens and flowers that I can add to a salad with my dinner tonight. I always like to bring a little picnic after I've been out foraging. It's part of that connecting to nature. If you can bring along food that you've foraged and made, things like fruit leather or jam, it's a really nice way to just engage with the nature that's around us. I've been foraging for pretty much my whole life. My mum grew up next to a forest in Sweden and she taught me everything she knows, and we learnt together about species that grow in Australia. And if you're keen to learn about foraged foods, go and do some courses, chat to some people who have been doing it for a long time, ask questions, but most importantly, get out there, observe and interact with all those edges and marginal spaces that are around you, because there's lots of food out there if you know what you're looking for.